Welcome back to Module 4. So we're going to be working on, again, the fire element, but we're going to bring in how to love and acknowledge our inner child.
Our inner child is a part of us that's still running. If you haven't addressed your inner child, it's still operating right now, even in your present time. And so maybe you're consciously working towards this direction, and that inner child that wasn't fully addressed or loved on might be pulling you in the opposite direction.
Right. And I think when we start working with our inner child, it's really easy to, or at least for me, when I went deep into inner child work, it was really easy to be like mad at my mom or like mad at my dad. It's like, are you serious? Like, how did you do that? But that really isn't what we're working on. It's like we're working on our inner reflection of ourselves.
And just kind of remember all those key players, like they're playing the perspective of what you're seeing in that moment of time. And so they've grown, they've evolved, they're not that same person anymore. And so it's not really fair to blame them for something that happened 10, 20 years ago. And so as we're doing this work, you might feel like you want to do that. And we're just inviting you to take the bigger, bolder leap in being like, oh, I forgive them. I realize like they did the best that they could with all the knowledge that they had at the time. We're in a brand new space. This is just a tool to support you in becoming even more you.
And I think the beautiful thing about inner child work is everything that you just said is how you work on your inner child, right? Because you're not going to blame the inner child for any of that either, right? And so it's like knowing that you're still working with a part of yourself that didn't understand what you understand now, right? The lack of boundaries at that time. And so it's like really inviting that part of yourself to be a little bit more present.
And I really see this more as a lifetime work. And so don't think that you're going to be able to clear out all of your inner child in a week, Right. I feel like I've spent several years working on my inner child, and every night I'll take my hands, place it on my belly, tune in, and I just go back into little childhood memories and notice, oh, was there any trapped emotion there? And how can I support myself with letting go of that emotion, gaining the wisdom and the learning that I needed from that time so that I can free up that space and have more available space for now.
Absolutely. And I think that it's almost like working with like ancestral work is that our inner child can really block our present moment. And it's like you have this little wounded baby version of yourself that's not allowing you to take those quantum leaps that you deserve. I see this in my clients a lot, actually, is that sometimes I have to take that part of their inner child and put them in a safe place to allow their body to move forward right now. Yeah. This is really a big thing for one of my clients that has a very traumatic childhood. I literally had to like create this like happy space, this like very protective, almost like womb-like, to put the inner child in so that we can see with new awareness what's going on right now. And that's what we can do for ourselves every day.
Yeah, and everyone's different. And, everyone has a different level of trauma or a different level of, just like depth that they want to work on with their inner child. I know when I first worked on my inner child, we would go through this series of, we'd invite them to come in front of us and I would look at them, and mine wasn't able to talk or anything. I had to like take her through this like shower, through this like rainbow light waterfall, and like give her new clothes and like just like feed her, nourish her, and completely transform who she was or how she was being and showing up. And I had to continuously ask her, like, what is it that she wants? What is it that she needs? And in your visualization, you can support that aspect of you in receiving all of the things that it never had in that reality time. And then you'll start to see, as that energy starts to free up, you'll have a different perspective of that version of you. So now, actually just last week, I had an energy healing session, someone giving a session to me, and she's like, oh, bring out the tissues, you're gonna be crying through this. And I didn't cry at all. And I knew it was because I had done so much inner child work that there was no charge there, And so it was a huge insight to me that like, wow, I've really worked through a lot of those layers. It doesn't mean there's not gonna be more. Of course, there always will be more, but it's nice to be like, I can look at different aspects of my timeline and there's no emotional charge there.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to recognize that different aspects of our inner child are going to be triggered at different times, right? So like with this client that I was talking about just a minute ago, each time they come in for a session, the inner child needs something different, and they're in a different state. And that's how it's going to be when you're in a different situation and you're in an argument, or you're stressed out. And like as an example, one time his inner child was like banging his head against the wall. And then so it's like he needed something to be addressed then, and then the next time it was a totally different thing, right? So we are always going to transcend the inner child, which I think is actually the beauty of it.
I love that you said that night, because I feel like that's why I don't do it every single night, but there are many nights that I do that exercise where I'm communicating with my inner child. And it's always a completely different aspect that wants to show up and be seen. Right. And this is all just things that are going to come up in your imagination. And you might be like, oh, I'm making this up, but it really doesn't matter. It's just your subconscious mind speaking to you, showing you pictures and tools so that you can look at that aspect of yourself and have a way to support it and provide the things that it needs. Or maybe, I had one client, they just needed a lot of mentors. They knew they were brilliant and they were this like genius, but like their parents never supported them in having the right teachers or the right mentors. So we had to gather all these incredible mentors for him. And then now he feels way more confident in writing the book that he wants to write. And on another session, he needed an audience. So we built out this theater and like created all the incredible audience to really receive the work that he had. And so this is a really playful process, and there's no wrong way to do this. And I think that's really the beauty of it. But it is an intimate conversation between you and a deeper aspect of yourself.
Absolutely. When I work on my inner child, I always see her as she is, with no judgment. And I always ask the same question: what do you need today? Right? And we can ask ourselves, like our present self, that same thing. And sometimes it's as simple as like a hug, right? I need to feel loved. And we're working with the heart and the fire right now. But sometimes it can be silly, and it's like, I want like a milkshake, and like that can translate into so many different things. But like, there's no limit on when you work with your inner child.
Yeah, and I would just think about all the tools that you've used in this workshop, and those are all the things that you can use on your inner child as well. Right. So for instance, I had a client that, they had a lot of abuse growing up, and she went to lots of different foster homes. And so they were yelling at her, and so that energy was trapped in her ears. So you can clear out the energy from her ears, from the meridians that run in and along the ears. So just kind of get creative and thinking like, okay, what could be blocking my inner child from flourishing and really having like that full vibrant energy that you would want for yourself?
Right. And I think when you tap into inner child work, they're stored beliefs, just like we've been talking about, throughout these modules, is that what I find when tapping into this like younger version of myself or a client is that sometimes the verbiage is like drastically different, as in like, belief system within the liver. It's like, my dad is mean to me, and it sounds like you can almost hear like the 5-year-old like crying, saying my dad's mean. So it's like really important to recognize, oh, that's an old belief system, and that's not even real anymore. Yeah,
and so just dive in, because your spirit will really show you the pictures that need to be seen. And this is where we get to come in as this like collective support group, because every situation is going to be totally unique. Every story that comes up is going to be unique. And when you hit a hurdle and you're not sure, like, whoa, the picture's not changing, like I don't know how to help them get to the next level, that's where you can ask a question and we can kind of work on this together.
Right. And just knowing that as you're transcending, you really want to make sure that you have like new words, right? Because new words is like, that's a new life. And so it's like, what can you replace these old limiting beliefs? Like, how are you going to rewrite your story?
Rewriting your story is super important too, because I know for me, I'm just going to say I have a Virgo moon, so I'm like analyzing, and sometimes I would speak in a way that was depreciating myself, and I still have to catch myself now. But the thing is, when we're saying that, we're using our breath, our lungs, our breath, our energy, and we're generating something that we don't really want someone else to see us in. And so when you're talking about your past, it's nice to come back, rewrite the story in a way where how do you actually want to present yourself? And sometimes you have to practice that story over and over again until it becomes natural and authentic for you. And it is natural and authentic. It's just a different perspective than the perspective that maybe you saw in the past. But it still is your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yay, so this is so awesome. But last little piece, fire element, that's where, bringing that sacred fire in, we can burn up and dissolve a lot of these old programs, so you can call in that fire element when you're working on your inner child, and that will start to break up those impurities, and then that energy gets to be like this fertilizer to support you in the new reality that you want to create.
I think a really, really powerful tool is bringing in the violet flame, right? And this is something that helps, just I see it as this huge cleanse, right? And it's just, as you're talking about, it burns away, but it's just all that energy just goes back up to source energy, knowing that it's no longer serving you, but you're also willing to learn the lesson of everything that's bringing and releasing.
Yeah, so the violet flame is a gift from the Ascended Master Saint Germain, and it's a beautiful violet fire, and you bring it over all aspects of your body, and it purifies any dense energies in any aspect of you. It is also an energy that you can use throughout your space, so you can just call upon that flame and burn up any impurities in the space. This is something that even Wayne Dyer used often. And so whether you resonate with the violet flame or even just the fire element, the sacred fire element itself, you can use that fire to just imagine it in your home, in your body, and again, in your childhood timeline, and just go ahead and burn up what is no longer serving your system. And I always like to ask for whatever's for the highest good of all.
Absolutely.
And that way, when you're shifting your timeline, it's also integrating with all the people around you, all the communities and the world and the universe at large. So yay, hopefully you're having fun with this element. It's so powerful and it's so much fun, and there's so much you can do with it. We'd love for you to share how you're using the fire element uniquely in your life. That would be so awesome for us to all expand that knowledge and understanding together.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in Module 5.